Hi, I'm Ember's Tide, he, him. Welcome to Smallfolk, a live-action custom D&D 5e adventure module brought to you by Inside Check Podcast. And welcome back to the Valley, where heroes come in all sizes. Today we pick back up with Jink, Howee Leafears, Abendstern Leafears, Long Sparkly Trail, and Wensleydale Beestinger, as they support the Mousefolk Tradesman Tufts on an adventure seeking the mystical, legendary lost community that produces Lavender Lone honey. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the show. We're on. It's on.
It's on. Here we go. Welcome
Something about
to
Donkey Kong.
Smallfolk. What? Oh my God. Yes, of course. Welcome to Smallfolk. I'm Leap. I use he, him, and this is an adventure, 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, where tiny creatures go on grand adventures. And we are just really excited to have you. Thank you so much for coming. What we're going to do for me to kind of calm myself down a little bit. Oh my goodness, Shiny.
So
that
pretty.
art. Ugh. I love fan art.
I love art.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna go around our table and we are gonna have our amazing players introduce themselves, their pronouns, their characters, and their characters' pronouns as well. It's gonna go Cal, Irish, Shiny, and then Casey, and then Embers. That's how we'll do it today.
All right. Hello, friends. I am Cal, also known as Andrew, also known as Caldranon. My pronouns are he, him. I am playing Wensleydale, the Rivertail Ranger, whose pronouns are also he, him, and his beast companion is a wasp named Sid, whose pronouns are be, bim.
Yeah, so I'm Irish, also known as Mikhail, and my pronouns are she, her. And today I will be playing the Pine Marten, Jink. And he is a druid with a beast companion that is a bee hummingbird, which is the tiniest kind of hummingbird that you can have. And this bee's name is Howee.
I'm Shiny. I use she, her. I'm playing Long Sparkly Trail, who is a snail or shellfolk druid. She also uses she, her.
Amazing. Absolutely incredible. And my good friend Casey Drones.
Hey, I am Casey. We got a hot mic here. I'm Casey. He, him. I am playing Abendstern Leafears, a tree croakie cleric whose pronouns are he, him, or ribbit.
Incredible. And last, but surely not least, the person who is also responsible for all of that incredible music that you heard on our way in, our good friend, I'm going to assume I can't guess, he's somewhere, Ember's Tide.
Hi, I'm Ember's Tide. I use he, him, and I'm here to do two things: chew bubblegum and play Howee Leafears, a Batfolk rogue who uses he, him as well, and I'm all out of gum.
Oh, I was going to swear. I was going to just hit like that. Oh,
Snap!
shirt. Yeah, exactly. And
Smallfolk
Meow,
nights.
meow, meow.
this is supposed to be
Family
a
show.
family stream.
I know. Okay.
We have been
Let me go.
live for how many minutes?
Almost
And it's
one.
me. Almost 1 minute, and the DM is almost sworn.
And we're on our way.
Good. So, a few things that we are going to do before we get started. Some very, very quick announcements. First, I want to thank Embers for the music, Jareka, who is above me in my video, so I'm pointing up, to be our incredible producer. I want to thank Jay for helping out, for being one of the two people who created the original source document. I want to thank Inside Check Pod, the pod that I am a part of, and all my good friends for helping us host this. I want to thank the cast, and I want to thank you for coming to watch us be ridiculous. I also want to highlight that if you are interested in any of the good things about Smallfolk, you can hit !Smallfolk, and you can see the source document, which will talk about the original races, some lore around them, and also the statistics behind them. And you can also get them on D&D Beyond as homebrew classes, and there is a link that we will show if you want to create your own Smallfolk characters using D&D Beyond, who is not a sponsor, but it's so easy.
And really, why wouldn't you want to create your own Smallfolk characters? They're cute, they're occasionally furry, and some of them might secrete poison from glands on their skin. Who's to say?
Who's to say? All right. I think. Oh, also, one last thing before we go. We are going to be doing a giveaway tonight, and that is going to be happening before the break. We're going to try out our giveaway magic. It could fail us, and if it does, we will try again after the break. Does anybody on our players want to give our good watchers a bit of a backstory of where we are, how we got here, and what we are searching for?
I could take a pass at it. So as we resume the adventure with our party, we have the entire group traveling underground in a multi-day journey supporting a tradesman mousefolk named Tufts, who's trying to start a trade accord with an almost mythical, ancient group of mice who produce a honey that has some pretty incredible powers. They're called the honey. What's it? It's not like a distillery. It's a honey.
It's like
extraction team.
Yeah,
honey.
they're like beekeepers, right? They're that's something else. We'll find them. Maybe
But they're called Lavender Lone, and Tufts, the mouse tradesman, is going on behalf of his boss. And the last episode, we had a heated card game between many in the team and Tufts, in which Tufts did not emerge victorious on either the main bet or the side bets. Howee Leafears was doing the first lookout post and found an ancient pot o' honey that happened to be filled with the spirit of a ghost mouse named Willow, I think.
Yep, you got
Willow, and we're now best friends, and that's going to be the buddy movie that we optioned to major movie studios.
Yep, it's that classic.
And I think we battened down for bed at the close of last session.
I would watch that buddy cop movie.
Yes.
Also,
the frog cleric came out with a big pot of.
Also,
the
Abendstern
sex
got
number.
rich in the
Yep,
game.
exactly. Of
Yes.
gold.
Super rich.
I'm sorry. It's supposed to be. It was 69
Family
gold.
stream.
It's supposed to be
Gold.
a family stream. It's 47. Someone explain that one to me later. And okay, thank God. And
47?
But then also our good Pine Marten also won the side bet, and so
I'll tell you when you're older.
learned, which was kind of a fun on the spot thing, that that our friend Long Sparkly Trail had a little bit of premonition about how the game would go, which I just think is kind of cool.
I have one tiny addition. It's very important that everyone remember that Wensleydale, who bet literally every coin he had, which is the main reason that Abendstern is so wealthy now, probably still thinks he won.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. Well, you want to start
He's
an
as
adventuring
simple
day
as a
happy,
baby lamb.
and so that's where we're gonna.
He
So it
is
is-
not unhappy
so
that he
it
has no money.
You know, it
There we go.
is a. Everyone rests as best as they physically can on the mats and sleeping arrangements that you bring. Our shell friend probably sleeping just as well as any other time, moving into her luxurious house, and our bat folk Howee finding a small root to hang off of. But the rest of you wake up on the cold stone ground or on the mattresses that you placed beside it. The air is damp and it is kind of stale now that you are a full day's journey into this tunnel. Some of these in more recent tunnels or have been renovated have small areas where fresh air can get in. But as you guys explored last time, you saw that this tunnel is really incredibly rudimentary by Smallfolk standards. It is probably one of the original tunnels burrowed out. No stonework, very few things propping itself up. It's nature in its rawest form. Tuft wakes up and kind of shakes himself off and is very uncomfortable. You can tell that he is not used to sleeping in this way. And he says, oh, okay. Well, I guess that's my first taste of what adventure feels like. And okay. At least one more of those, huh? Okay. Is it normal to have a breakfast before we get on the road, or do we just have to eat as we walk? I've got a little bit of both. What do you all say on this one?
I mean, at least one breakfast before.
Okay, well then breakfast it is, and
Breakfast is
his
the most
admiration
important
for our
meal of the
tallest
day.
two friends continues to exceed.
Can't be
And
skipping
he
it.
scurries to the back of his cart, and the few things that he has kept back there is a large pot and some bowls, and he takes one of the small bricks that is made out of dander and dry leaves that's used as like fire starter, and he starts making some oatmeal on there, and he says, okay, well, we'll eat this, and he has everything that he needs, and he pours it, and he takes his water skin, yeah, it'll be fine, I think, and he empties most of it out and gives it a big stir, and he says, we'll fill up our bellies, and then it is going to probably take us most of the day to get to the next spot where we will want to camp. There's only a few natural spots on this, if you don't mind, of course. And he just goes on preparing a meal for everyone. As soon as the tallest of the small folk say that breakfast is required, he feels it's his duty to create it. So he makes it isn't much, but it's oatmeal. He takes a little bit of cinnamon and sprinkles it on, and there's small bits of sweetness of berries that he can put on, and hands everyone a bowl, and eats nervously as he kind of watches everyone else. How does everyone feel about their adventure so far? Abendstern, you are a man of adventuring. How do you feel about being this far into the tunnel with so much of the day ahead of you still?
I feel a little nervous about the journey ahead. We've been going for a long time, and I just don't know what's ahead in this long tunnel before us.
And if you're saying that out loud, you see that that he's like, well, I've done a bit of reading, and his bowl is shaking a little bit, and there shouldn't be anything, but any time you go into the underground that isn't really surveyed, there's always a chance, I guess. Has anyone spent much time in the wild before? Are there adventurers that have kind of gone out from I'm in the warmer, more comfortable parts of the valley? Could you give us some information on those? I don't know much about you. I just know what you sent me.
Yeah, I've am pretty far traveled. I spent a lot of time going from town to town, just visiting folks and living the life of a Druid. And but I've never spent this much time underground, so I couldn't tell you too much about this.
Yeah.
Me neither. I've spent my entire life in the wild, but always under the stars.
Yeah, what they said.
This is much different.
Elisty just has goo on her face, and she's just sort of nodding her whatever head, torso,
Her fronds.
Yeah.
Like whatever those.
Howee comes down, sort of bags under his eyes, holding this honey pot under his arm. Just sort of grumbles, takes some breakfast, and walks off grumbling. This is the worst time for the nocturnal Batfolk, is when everyone else is just sort of diurnal cycles have kicked up into morning gear. He's kind of just getting ready to rough out a day where he's just
Right.
tired.
Yeah. You're like you're
Bad
fighting,
hangover.
You're like you are fighting to like your natural habitat. Everyone roll a perception check just quickly. I'm gonna roll one for. Nah, he didn't do it.
What
well.
even is that? Is that a...
You're rolling your d20 and then you're adding your wisdom score. If you have
Thank
perception
you.
as a skill, you'll add your proficiency to it as well.
I've got a 21.
Shiny rolled a 13. I see in chat. Ooh.
I
11.
rolled a 6
A 6.
plus 3, so 9.
Okay. All right.
Howie's feeling perceptive with a 19.
And 19. Well, you know what? You notice everyone is eating well, and actually the perception roll was that only Wensleydale has really noticed, like, where did this honey jar come from? Everyone is kind of eating, and normally, and most people just see a very grumpy bat with wings over, grabbing a meal
Right.
and tucking itself into a corner.
Right.
But Wensleydale, there's like a small ceramic jar tucked under this bat's wing that wasn't there before. And I mean, a man who loves food such as you, that looks like food, brother. I don't know. So that's just something that you know that you can deal with. What does Wensleydale feel about that? Is he going to do something about it or just tuck it away?
I do think that he'd he's not the type to look at something someone else has and want to interfere with their business by any means,
Yeah.
but he would have a taste for honey, especially since that was part of the conversation starting this job out. So I think he'd just kind of sidle up to Abendstern and wait, is Abendstern or it's Howee that has? Sorry,
Howee has it.
Howee.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
Howee
he sidles
has
up to
it.
Howee and kind of like he's doing all of the body language and motions that go along with having a conspiratorial side conversation. But then he just speaks really like at a perfectly normal voice and goes, "Hey, you want to share any of that honey?"
So how we just kind of, I imagine like one of the coffee hangdog expressions that you'd see in like a Warner Brothers cartoon or something, like Animaniac style. He kind of looks up at the much larger Wensleydale, and he immediately tries to come up with something. And he just kind of goes, "Oh, I found this. It was hiding over there in the corner. I would show it to you. Come with me. Come with me." And my goal is then to distract from the honey pot and take Wensleydale over to the kind of wreckage of the old carriage where I'd found this honey pot, and just sort of introduce that to the party that way. And my hope is that in all of that commotion, I guess, people will forget that I've got this honey pot, and I'm going to try to keep it secret as best I can.
Okay.
Totally. So Wensley, you have been. There's been an attempt. He directs you to what looks like a broken down set of carts. It's just all shattered wood, and it's rotting, and it's rusted, and it's been there for an exceptionally long time. Do you take the bait?
I'm going to roll an insight check with disadvantage for Wensleydale.
Yes.
To see whether or not he is successfully distracted by this ploy. And so that's going to be a 6. I'm pretty sure I'm going to play that as he has a moment where he's like,
Should we contest it?
I mean, if you want to, but I rolled it with disadvantage. So, I mean, feel free to, like, if you want to roll a deception check.
Deception check. Yeah.
All right. I rolled a 6.
Okay.
Oh, so Wensley, okay, so here's how we'll play this. Because you were choosing to talk loud enough that everyone could hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everyone knows about the honeypot but you.
Right.
And
so Wensleydale was successfully distracted, but Howee's still going to have to contend with the rest of the party if any of them are curious now.
I'm going to award both of you an inspiration point because it's wonderful.
Excellent.
You can tuck that away somewhere.
Well, so I think I'm actually going to spend it right away because I think that what sort of happens for Wensleydale is that he then goes over to this wreckage where his friend has now told him he found something cool, and he's going to root around in there, and maybe subconsciously he's thinking, well, I don't need his honey if I can get my own.
Right. Okay.
So he's going to dig around in that wreckage and see what he can find, and I'm going to spend that inspiration.
Yeah, totally. So roll perception with advantage or
And,
investigation.
Yeah, so true to character, Wensleydale's investigation is -1, and the higher of my two rolls was a 10, so I rolled a 9.
All right, so you see cart wreckage. It is so old, and you move things over. You take like the last remnants of a wheel, and as you move it, it literally like crumbles in your hands into like dustwood, and it's just the leftovers of something. There isn't anything there. Anything that was anything that would biodegrade has done so. Mm-hmm. So you feel like it has been a really, really long time, and now you are just covered in old rotty dustwood. So like in your fur hands and like down on your coat and stuff.
Okay, so he draws his conclusion that there's nothing else interesting to find here, and then that actually is just very distracting to him because Rivertails tend to be very particular about keeping their fur clean and neat. It's protective for them as much as it is aesthetic. So he kind of dusts off his hands and goes, well, that's that, and heads back to where the campfire was last night, even though it's probably out now, and just starts cleaning him off, probably pulls out a little, like bone comb and is going through the fur and brushing things off, and that's where his attention is going to be for the next little bit.
Incredible. So now, Shiny, Long Sparkly Trail and Jink, you've heard this whole conversation. Is there something that you want to do with it, or is it something that you can tell that Wensley doesn't know, and you can tell that Howee is less inclined for other people to know, and it's up to your characters. I'm going to give you guys the first choice, and then Ember, and then Abendstern, I'm going to talk to you about it in a second too, because it's your brother and it'll be a little bit different. But what do you guys do as just people who've heard this whole thing and seen it play out? Is there anything that you want to do about it?
I don't think Jink would want to get involved. He's just kind of like, it'll play out how it plays out.
I love it.
I think LST would mostly just try to maybe do an insight check from a distance to see why Howee doesn't want this information out, to see what she can find out, but she's not going to intervene or say anything necessarily.
How about this? Make either an insight, a nature, or an arcana check. One of the three.
So it's going to be 16.
16? All right. So you know that there's a honey pot, and there's something nagging you about that honey pot. Like, you've seen it, and you just have a sense that something's up with it, right? You can't tell what it is. You can't tell if this is just one of those premonitions that you get. but there's something going on there. It doesn't seem bad. It doesn't seem dangerous, but it is not just like it can't just be an ordinary object. Like it can't just be clay, right? There's something going on, right?
So she might just kind of scoot, once she finishes her breakfast, she might just kind of scoot around the area like she usually does and might just kind of get closer, but she's not going to intervene necessarily.
Awesome.
Not yet. She's gathering information.
I love it. All right. Now, Abendstern, your brother has something. He's trying to hide a toy from his friends. He's found something that you don't know if you should have or not. And he's trying to make sure other people can't have it. It's you guys as 5-year-olds all over again. It's you guys as 12-year-olds all over again. He's got something, man. What are you going to do? Or are you going to do anything? He's your brother, after all.
I look at him sternly.
Abendsternly.
Abendsternly.
Oh, no.
I
Trademark.
know this look. The moment I see it, I know this look.
And I say, Howee, you know we're all going to find out eventually what's in your honeypot. So why don't you just come out with it now so we can save ourselves probably a lot of trouble.
Wink wonk.
Are you saying this loud enough that everyone can hear it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I've had enough already.
So Howee is kind of like, He says, okay, look, it's true. It's true. I found this old wreckage of a carriage, right? Not something you'd expect to see in a tunnel, no, but it's there. Here, look, you can see it. Dig around, it's all carbon and decayed rotted wood. But I found this honey pot, and you know what? My mama bat would always tell me there is money in the honey pot. And so I'm going to hold on to this until when we get surface side, we're going to find the best place to sell curios, artifacts, other rarities of lost in time. And if nothing else, my friends, this may be the treasure boon of this trip. I pledge to you I will take good care of it until we can find a way to find compensation for its discovery.
Through this, Tuft, no one's been paying attention, but he just has opened up that book that you saw him writing in, and he's just been scribbling like crazy. He's just like, oh, well, we'll figure out how to put that within the official transcripts of Discovery, and we'll look at the contract as to see who with it pertains or how it will affect compensation. But this is very useful information. That being said,
okay, GM, I'm gonna walk up and just kind of touch Tufts right on his lips and say, shh. And here's what I'm gonna try and do. So tell me what I gotta do.
Yeah.
I don't want this on the book, so
Okay.
I'm just gonna say, dear tradesman Tufts.
Yes.
As we said yesterday in our first day of travel, I pledge to you that when you are either before your superiors or the mice of Lavender Lone, I will make sure that they know that you are a mouse to be respected, and respected in a manner of contract. And on that point, tell me, sir, what was the contract in our charge for this mission?
well, it would be too much to go through in a moment, but why not? And he takes very nervously and very reluctantly, you see him tear a page from his book out, and he says, why don't we talk about your contract later and maybe maybe when we get to the Lone, when there's a minute, but I will for now leave out this discovery. And we'll say, as an amendum, that whatever is found on behalf of the party can keep, and compensation will stand as is. How will that suffice for now? I'm just realizing I'm underground with people with a lot of weapons, and I need your help. So,
I'll try to puff myself up at this and kind of just sort of fluff as big as I can, and I say, "That's a wise mouse. I agree. I accept your terms."
Okay. Well, on that note, and very shakily, Tuft grabs for the pack and finds his 2 glow bugs and kind of glow and runs his finger along their back as they kind of awaken and fly up into the air. And like the night before, they alight, setting glowing light throughout this dark tunnel that was only being lit by the single fire that you guys had before. And he says, "Well, let me just put some things away, and we can get on the road. We really do have a full day's journey ahead, and this is already something that I'm quite uncomfortable with. It would be very good to get above ground already." "Oh, okay. Well, good morning." And he kind of begins to go off and get his things ready. Let us decide now how we want to set up the marching order of this event. Basically, the tunnel is big enough that you can fit 2 people wide. So we can have 2 people right at the front. There can be someone standing behind Tufts kind of in the middle with the cart. And then we can have 2 people behind as well.
I think that Wensleydale is going to be pretty close to the front, not as a matter of strategy, but because at some point as people are picking up their things and packing up to head out, he's going to be finished packing and just start heading that way.
Mm-hmm. I think Howee is going to generally try to be up front as he's sort of playing the role of the bloodhound of the party, like just being a perception machine as best he can.
For sure.
LST, I would say, is usually in the back, pretty far back. And she just kind of skips ahead every once in a while with her abilities, but typically she'll fall behind a little ways and then all of a sudden be up next to whoever she was in the back with.
I think that Abendstern is going to try and be in front, but Howee keeps pushing in front of him, so he'll just be right behind Howee.
Okay, cool. So whether you like it or not, you're beside this mouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I like it. And Jink, Jink, how does Hi, your hummingbird, feel about being
it's funny that
underground?
You asked. I think Hi has been a little bit depresso in his espresso.
Hi feels low.
He's used to
Hi feels
going
low.
places with like flowers to go buzz around, and it's definitely the lowest point of Hi's life. So.
Okay. So you see like beside you, like in the back, like it's the same amount of flaps, but the energy just isn't there. And and what is normally like a very kind of like always looking for something, and like a Hi, you can read Hi's movements as emotion, right? So sorry, what are Hi's pronouns again?
Hi doesn't really have pronouns.
Do they have pronouns? Okay, cool, awesome. So you can tell there that it is able to move, like when Hi is most happy, that's that moving from flower to flower, buzzing up and down, like that constant movement, right? But Hi is staying very close to you, and Hi is buzzing, like that.
But sad.
But head just looking down, Yeah. There's just tunnel, right? It's just endless
buzzing in
tunnel.
minor
Buzz
key
minor.
somehow.
Yeah, exactly. And before we get going as well, Wensley, how does Sid feel about being underground? Because you have a wasp companion as well.
Yeah. So I think it's a little bit easier for Sid, partly because he's used to getting into weird situations because he hangs out with Wensleydale, and partly because, there's something just sort of in wasp nature about nests that are enclosed and the idea of like crawling around in the tunnels and small spaces of those. So it may not be his favorite place, but it's not getting to him the same way.
Yeah, I like that. It's almost like there's like a thing that's clicked in its mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
That he's got like burrow behavior.
Right.
So some of him staying close to you, and some of him is like going up along the walls.
Right, maybe
right?
not
like, just
flying all the time and just like crawling along the sides of the tunnel.
Totally. I love it. That's so cool. Okay, I dig it. So let's have some quick perception rolls, and we will see how that tunnel is treating you guys. And what I'll do is I'll ask everyone instead of just all calling out. So, Wensley, what do you have?
An 8.
An 8. Irish
and
and
what penny
Jink,
roll
what do you
is
have?
Perception. Okay, I have
A perception roll. 19. Lovely. Long, sparkly trail.
I too have a 19.
Amazing. Abendstern. And Abendstern's friend, the cat.
He's under attack.
This is Banshee. Banshee sometimes needs to be held, and you can't say no. I got a 13.
You know what? Sometimes we all feel like Banshee. So I love it. 13. And finally, Howee, right up front.
23.
23. Amazing. Okay, so everyone who got above... So anyone who got above 10, from that 10 to 15 range, it is dark and cold, and you can tell that this tunnel continues to descend lower. It is getting damp, and the walls of this space are enclosing in even more, that it's getting lower, and what was a pretty even carved out space is becoming rocky and craggy. There's gaps, there's drops of stone that our tallest members might have to duck a little bit, and there are holes and things. There are just natural formations that start to occur. There, for those people who got in that 16 and above, every so often it is very quiet. There's just the buzzing of high. There's that sometimes the wings flapping of Sid and the wheels of the cart as people are walking, and sometimes above you hear a rumble, and then it'll just stop, and then an hour will pass, and you'll hear some other kind of sound within the stone, either to your left or right. Creatures that live below, burrowing or digging along the way. You see holes in the walls that you think might have been formed by some of these creatures at some point. And though it's always an option by the rumbling sounds that surround you, none cross the tunnel itself. And finally, after a long day, a quick break for a lunch, and then more hours of this, you end up in a wide, long, expansive space. It isn't as high as the previous one, but it is like this wide cavern that's long like a rectangle. And the first thing that you notice, especially people who are more used to above ground, and especially you, Wensley, is you hear water. And there is a small stream that kind of runs alongside it. And you see like a hole in one end that is just water that kind of trickles through this rectangular space. And the tunnel itself goes through the short sides. So the longer space you can tell has been like carved out by this river. at some capacity, and the tunnel has been burrowed through this natural kind of cavern. Quickly, Tufts stops and he checks his map, looks around at the water, and takes note. And by this point, he is exhausted. This has been a full day's journey. And he says, well, I believe that this is where we'll need to stay for our night. I'll begin to set up the fire. I have enough of these tinders for all of us. And I'll allow you to discuss how we can guard these places, if so desired. And he goes off and begins his preparations for his second day of camp, and you can tell that he is feeling just like really, really worn down. How is everyone feeling after a tense but uneventful day's journey? Howee, how are you feeling? You heard every sound, because of how you hear, every reverberation was clear as day to you. So you could hear these, like sometimes you could hear these very long rumbles that moved along and seemed to go for half an hour sometimes. And sometimes they were like quick, small shakes around the tunnel, some close and some far away. How are you feeling after today?
I mean, I think being in an enclosed space that's more claustrophobic is not something that Howee is going to enjoy. He knows that we are 2 days into what should be a 3-day travel, and we've been moving at a good pace. So he's really more focused on just the diligent process of getting this done. I also think that at some point along the journey, because Abendstern is kind of close to him, he's tried to sort of walk alongside his brother and just kind of indicate that, you know, the honeypot is part of a bigger plan, but I have to wait until we're alone to tell you about it. But it's a good thing, and it's only here to help everyone in the party. I just don't want everybody to be surprised when they find out all at once. So it's important to keep it secret, but it's nothing bad. It's something that will help all of us stay safe, I think.
What I'm going to say is this then, and at Abendstern, I will allow you to react in a sec. Like you'll get to decide how you're going to do this, but I'm going to say that because of your perception roll and because of how you hear, you would have been able to take one of the opportunities of the cresting of one of those rumbling sounds, where everyone else might have been distracted by the sheer shaking of the space, because you could have heard it coming from 10 minutes away, that you could have turned to your brother and said this without anyone really noticing within the reverberations of the space. So Abendstern, sometime in the afternoon, this happened with your brother. How do you feel? How do you react to him?
The longer I go underground, the more irritable I get. And it's not, sort of energetic irritable. It's just, I just get more and more grumbly about everything, especially with my brother who is being tight-lipped about this obviously, I don't want to say nefarious item, but there's something, he's not putting all the cards on the table. And my patience is wearing thin. That being said, I just want to keep moving so that we can get back out into the fresh air and trees and into a place where I can feel more myself.
Okay, that sounds good. And how does everyone else feel? Like Long Sparkly Trail, you've spent a full day falling behind, checking to make sure no one's paying attention, and then just popping forward using your magic. how have you felt? Like, this is a lot of time and a lot of distance for someone who moves so slowly as yourself. Like, how's the journey been for you?
The journeying she's pretty used to, since her family sort of spent the last several generations journeying.
Of course.
But being underground is a little bit weird, especially when there's any of the rumbling that gets too loud or too rumbly. Her eyeballs or eye stalks do that thing that snails do, and I scrunched up my headband, where they suck into her head, and she gets all smushed a little smaller. But she just kind of keeps trucking along, and as long as nobody's looking, like you said, she'll bloop back up into place so that she doesn't fall too far behind.
I love it. Jink, can you make a perception roll to see, just a quick one for me, and then I'm curious to see how you and High have done over today's journey. 9? Okay. So there's been a lot of weird sounds, and you can't tell if this sound is part of the tunnel or not. There's just been this consistent kind of sound, but there's been rumblings all over as well. So and you've been really concerned about your buddy, right? Your buddy has definitely exactly. So you've gotten to camp. How are you feeling, and how do you tend to
I'm a little worn now. It's when you're that tall, it's kind of exhausting to kind of stoop down for so long.
Yeah.
So he will take this opportunity to take off his back and just stretch out, and with one paw he'll kind of give High a place to perch and say, little buddy, I'm so sorry that you're cooped up down here, but I do believe we've only got a couple days left in this journey, so hang in there.
and just kind of lands and just kind of tucks in to you a little bit.
Hummingbird blowing a raspberry at you.
Continues into the camp. He kind of sees, especially Tuft and High and long sparkly trail. Just everybody's looking a little tired, and so he would like to cast Goodberry, and beginning with Tuft, pass out some snacks.
Nice. Tuft takes I assume your good berries, they're small for you, right? But I assume that they are proportional to the caster. That seems right to me. So Tuft takes the equivalent of an orange, and is like, oh, this is, whoa, I was gonna eat more oatmeal, and this just, thank you, and bites into it. And it's he wasn't ready. You know the way to attack one of these things, and he just, and it, there's just Goodberry, red, just up and to the side and down. And he's like, oh, I'm not even upset. It's so delicious. And he just turns it and tries it better, and it goes up his face this time. So there's just red here and red down. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. This is not proper etiquette. It's just so delicious. Oh, thank you. Okay, I'm going to carry on then. And he kind of and you hear one final one as he starts to eat and bite.
So I have one thought before everybody goes down to bed for the start of the night, if I could.
Yes, please. Yeah.
So I would like to say to everybody, I'll take first watch again, and I'd like to kind of try to travel up ahead and find a little bit of a secluded area and try to, knock on the honeypot. And I'd like to try to talk to Willow, but to do so in a place that's concealed where nobody could see us.
Perfect. So how about this? Let's on Irish. This is supposed to be a family stream. Irish tap knock on the honey pot. But this, I love you guys. So let's talk about watch. Let's decide how watch is going to go. And then we are going to take our break and we are going to talk about our giveaway. And then we will come back right during the watches going on. So you are taking first watch. Who, either one or two people, are going to take second, and who is going to take third? Okay.
I think Abendstern wants to take second watch so he can maybe catch his brother in whatever act he is going to.
Oh, better yet, I'll ask Abendstern to take first with me.
Oh, okay.
Perfect. I like it. So,
bro watch.
Hashtag bro watch. So, oh my god. We got our brothers on first watch. Who is going to take second then?
Wensleydale can do that.
Perfect. Wensley and Sid. And that just means our good shell girl is going to have a good shell night. So what we are going to do is we are going to take a quick break. While we're on our break, we are going to do our giveaway for our Lexcalibur book with our extra Smallfolk poetry, which I'm continuing to add to. There's been a couple more on there. One also that Sam Hotep himself wrote and sent to me, which I'm just going to put in. Yeah, he is great. And we are going to attach that. Now, the word that you need to put in, it is one word, and it is the name of the magical dragon who, stories say, brought the crystal that has awoken all of our fine folk here. And their name is Amber Shadow. So type, is it exclamation Amber Shadow? Nope, just Amber Shadow. You just type Amber Shadow into our chat, and that hopefully will enter you for our very first Smallfolk prize. My friends, my bladder is full, and so we will see you soon.
Like my heart.
Yes.
Like my heart. It is so good to be back.
Our bladders and hearts are full, and we will return with one of those things having changed.
All right, see you guys in a few. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Smallfolk D&D, brought to you by Insight Check Podcast. If you like what you've heard, please consider giving us a rating or a review on iTunes or whatever brought this story to your ears. And tune in next time for the continuation of the Lavender Lone party's journey through the tunnels en route to the promised land of mouse and honey. Until next time, we hope to see you again in the valley.